as US-South Africa relations continue to deteriorate ahead of the G20. One clear winner in this battle has emerged. So the feud between South Africa and the United States is continuing to simmer, particularly ahead of the G20. But while Cyril Ramaphosa and Donald Trump both have their own views on why their side is on the correct side of history, only one of these sides truly has a chance of emerging as the victor. But before we get into it, could I please remind you to subscribe to the channel? It's completely free, and all you have to do is click on the subscribe button in the bottom left corner of this video. Now let's get into it. So Trump announced his decision to withdraw the United States from the G20 summit in Johannesburg with this truth post. As he explained in the post, it is a total disgrace that the G20 will be held in South Africa. Afrikaners, people who are descended from Dutch settlers and also French and German immigrants, are being killed and slaughtered, and their lands and farms are being illegally confiscated. No US government official will attend as long as these human rights abuses continue. I look forward to hosting the 2026 G20 in Miami, Florida. While there is a debate around whether or not Trump's claims are correct, one thing is clear. The United States and South Africa really haven't been able to mend their ties at all. And Ramaphosa's response to Trump certainly didn't help things. So just as Trump has refused to take a conciliatory approach, so too has Ramaphosa. So in this ABC News article, it explains US President Donald Trump's decision that the United States government boycott the Group of 20 summit next weekend in South Africa is their loss, as Ramaphosa was quoted as saying. He added that the United States needs to think again whether boycott politics actually works, because in my experience, it doesn't work. This despite the fact that South Africa has pretty much decided to boycott Israel due to its own stance on the Gaza conflict. So, got to work that one out for yourself. Still, Trump's actions seem to have had a domino effect, with other US allies taking the same approach. Soon after the US withdrawal, Argentina decided to follow in their footsteps, with President Javier Milei no longer attending the summit. So as we can see in this EWN article, Milei announced that he would skip the summit and instead send his foreign minister, echoing America's controversial decision to withdraw entirely. Now, it's important to note is that unlike the US, Argentina have not withdrawn entirely, and they have not actually clarified the exact reason for the withdrawal. The only thing that is claimed in the article is that analysts say Argentina's move reflects its growing financial and political alignment with the US following a recent $20 billion exchange rate stabilization bailout. So for those who might not be aware, the US and Argentina agreed to a $20 billion currency swap, where basically the US invests in Argentina's markets and currency in order to bolster the Argentine peso. And this comes as trade between the two countries is on the rise. So it's very difficult to know whether or not Argentina decided to take this move due to being anti-South Africa or simply to align with a very strong, if not their most important trade partner. Still, they are not the only ones who took this step. So after Argentina confirmed its president's withdrawal, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum followed suit. So as we can see in the Sunday Times article, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo will not be attending the G20 Leaders Summit, joining Argentina in sending a senior cabinet minister to lead that country's delegation. So despite this withdrawal, and following in the footsteps of the US and Argentina, South Africa has maintained that this is not a diplomatic disaster, downplaying Trump's non-attendance. But wait, there's more. China's president, Xi Jinping, has also withdrawn from the G20 summit in Johannesburg. So according to this specific article, it's believed that Premier Li Qiang, who is often touted to be Xi Jinping's successor as Chinese president, will be the person who represents China at the G20 summit. And it seems that South Africa is trying to paint this in a positive light, saying that it will give South Africa the chance to get acquainted with this potential future leader. But again, they're not painting over the obvious, which is the fact that numerous countries' presidents are not showing an interest in traveling to South Africa. So another country whose president also won't be coming is Vladimir Putin. However, it's important to understand that Putin has an arrest warrant out for him from the ICC. And so he probably won't want to risk travel due to South Africa being a member of the Rome Statute. And so South Africa would be under obligation to arrest him if he arrived on South African soil. Still, this trend of leaders withdrawing has a very strong message for South Africa. And that message is this: the South African government, and quite frankly the country, is just not that important. Now I'm going to give you an example of why I say this. So if we take a look here at the G20 Information Center, we have the list of attendees of last year's summit, which happened in Rio de Janeiro. Now, bear in mind that Brazil, like South Africa, is a member of BRICS and is also a developing country. So it's not quite developed first world, but it's also not an underdeveloped or third world country as per the old definition. But let's take a look here at the guest list and see who attended. So, as we look at the participating countries, there's a very clear trend, which is that pretty much everybody's leader, so president or prime minister, is in attendance. The only two countries that did not send their leader to the G20 summit in Brazil last year were Saudi Arabia and Russia. Russia decided not to for the same reason as this year, which is that Putin has an arrest warrant out for him. As for Saudi Arabia, it's rumored that the Saudi Arabian leader was suffering with an ear issue, and so due to this health problem, decided not to travel. But as we can see here, Argentina's president was in attendance, so too was Xi Jinping of China, as was Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico, and we see United States President Joe Biden in attendance. And so what this shows us is that, unfortunately, South Africa has tainted its image on the world stage. While, of course, there are many people in the country who did not want things to go this way, the ANC government, particularly before the GNU was formed, has not listened to the will of the people, instead alienating the United States and the West in favor of closer relations with global pariahs such as Russia and Iran. Now, people also need to remember that while Trump may be viewed as a controversial figure to some, he's certainly not someone that shouldn't be taken seriously. Take, for example, the meeting that he held at the White House with European leaders earlier this year. If we take a look at this picture, we see how every single European leader was gathered around Trump's desk while he addressed them, almost like the principal addressing the school children. Now, of course, this isn't a sign of disrespect to anybody. This is just the way that the office is laid out. But at the same time, we see everybody in attendance. So if we take a look at the faces in the bottom picture, we can see EU leader Ursula von der Leyen. We see German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, the French President Emmanuel Macron, and on the right-hand side, we see Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president. We also catch a glimpse of Keir Starmer of the UK in the top picture, for those who can't see him. So ultimately, this is just proof that when Trump comes knocking, people answer the door. And you can bet that when the G20 comes around in Miami in 2026, those same leaders who are not going to be attending the G20 in South Africa will certainly not take that chance with Trump. From my view, after digesting all this information, it's clear that when it comes to the US versus South Africa, it's the latter who is going to come off second best. Thanks very much for tuning into this video. If you enjoyed it, please remember to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content. Until next time, I'm Matthew Cohen, and this is the Power Pod.